Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I have something different that I'd be sharing with y'all. The past couple of live streams as well as general interactions with y'all, many of you have asked me questions about how I choose my colors for a particular project. Also, just the kind of product that I'm drawn to when I'm creating a project. So, when do I choose if I want to work with acrylics or watercolors, and even in watercolors, when I want to work with watercolor inks, pigment powders, sprays, etc. So, keeping that in mind and the general questions and doubts, I realized that as mixed media artists, we're people who work very intuitively and we go by how we feel. However, there are always general rules when it comes to colors, composition, structure, things like that, that we've gained knowledge of and use it very subconsciously. So it's not something that we sit, plan, and then create. However, something that happens almost simultaneously together as we begin creating. So this video is going to be the first in the series of color theory, where I'm just going to talk about the color wheel, the different combinations, and for demonstration purposes, I will be working with watercolor inks as well as acrylic paints, just to show you how these two mediums work and how I use the color wheel for inspiration, as well as how just a general knowledge of how colors work and how they are placed can be very handy when you start creating a project. So here I have my color wheel. Now this is a color wheel that I've had for years. It's something that's easily available on Amazon, and so I'm just going to leave the link down below in case you'd wish to get one yourself. However, you can also just create your own color wheel with the colors and the mediums that you usually play with and work with while creating. So, a standard traditional color wheel is derived first from the primary colors, which are yellow, red, and blue. So, just to place them that way, so yellow, red, and blue, which form a triangle, form the primary colors. However, when it comes to printing, digital printing, and color printing, especially with the printers that we own, the primary colors that they follow are the CMY combination, which is the cyan, for a blue, which is a lighter shade of this blue here, the magenta, and yellow. So according to them, a combination of magenta and yellow eventually does create red, and that becomes a completely different color wheel. But for convenience purposes and for the knowledge that we've gained as kindergarteners, I think it's best to consider yellow, red, and blue as our primary colors and then begin the color wheel. So when we have the three primary colors, our next layers that come are the secondary colors, which are created by mixing together two primary colors. So when we mix yellow and red, which are the two primaries, we get the orange, which becomes a secondary color. Same way, when we mix the yellow and blue, the two primaries, we get our secondary color, which is the green. And when we mix the red and blue primary, we get our third secondary color, which is the violet. So orange, green, and violet then become our secondary colors. And the third layer that we have are the tertiary colors, which are achieved by mixing a primary and a secondary, which means to say that when we mix the violet, which is a secondary color, with red, we get our tertiary color, which is this red violet. When we mix our red, the primary, with our secondary, the orange, we get a reddish orange color. Same way, when we mix our primary yellow with orange we get a yellow orange color. The yellow with green, the green being the secondary here, gives us a yellowish green color. Blue with green gives us a bluish green color, and blue with violet gives us a blue violet color. So these then become our tertiary colors, and that's the simplest way of understanding a color wheel, by dividing it into 3 sets of 3: the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary. So with that understanding, what I'm going to demonstrate here is using my watercolor liquid inks, the primaries. I'll just be mixing them up to create the secondary as well as the tertiary. And I'm here using a set of 10 standard acrylic paints that are available. This brand is Fevicryl, which is an Indian-based brand. However, you can go with any acrylic colors that are available with you. But just to show you how these may vary when it comes to the colors. Now, at the end of the day, when you're creating a color wheel using different mediums, it all comes down to the intensity of the pigment in them. So the same thing, if these are the liquid watercolors, if I end up using my watercolor Lindy's sprays, because of the pigment in them, I'm going to get a different color, a different shade of it, and a different result. So let me begin with the watercolors, and I also have my pen here handy to write down the shades. So for the blue, I am using a processed blue, which is closest to the standard blue color. For the red, I'm using a scarlet red, and for the yellow, a golden yellow. Of course, I have black and white for when I go into tints and shades. But first, let's just mix these and create our primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. So I'm just going to create some circles with water because I'm working with watercolor inks, and then begin adding my colors. So first up is just going to be the 3 primary colors, so 3 circles for that. Here I'm using watercolor paper, which is about 150 GSM. So with that done, let's go in with the yellow, and that gives us our first primary color, which is yellow. Next would be the red. And with watercolors, you can see I just need a tiny little amount, and with the water, it spreads out. And third is going to be the blue. So these are my 3 primaries, and I'm just going to write that down here. Now for the secondary, like we discussed, it's a mixture of these primaries. And so here on my work surface, I'm just going to mix them to create my secondary colors. And to begin with, it's a mixture of yellow and red, which would give me an orange. Next, I'm going to mix red and blue for a violet. And now to form the green, which is a mix of blue and yellow. So with just these 3 primaries, we've managed to create 3 more colors, which become our secondary colors. And now moving on to the tertiary colors, which is just going to be a mixture of a primary and a secondary. To begin with, a combination of the yellow and the orange here. That gives me a nice yellowish orange. Next, I'm going to, since I have my violet here, that with a little bit more red, which gives me my red violet. And the blue green, which gives me a nice bluish green. There are more tertiary colors depending on the blend. Right now I've just mixed this primary with the secondary next to it. However, I also then go diagonally where I mix red and orange to get a reddish orange, green with yellow to get a yellowish green, and the blue with violet to get a blue violet. So just the same way. To my orange, I'm going to bring in red, and that's going to give me a reddish orange. Now to my violet, I'm just going to add a little more blue, and there you see it gives me a bluish violet. Basically, the blue being the stronger hue. Hue is nothing but the color. Hue is a word used to refer to the main color, the pigment. So we would say the yellow hue, which means yellow color. And now I'm just going to create a yellowish green here. So to my green, I'm just going to go in with yellow, and that gives me a nice lime green, which is stronger yellow in the green. So these become my tertiaries. So here's a look at the colors so far, just a close up with the 3 primaries, the secondaries, and the tertiaries, which are a combination of a primary and a secondary, using the watercolors. Okay, so just to talk a little more about the color wheel and how the colors are placed, there's another important thing to sort of keep in mind is that the color wheel is divided into half: the warm colors and the cool colors. So in my particular color wheel here, the left side from yellow to red violet would be my warm colors, and the right side from yellow green to the violet would be my cool colors. And that's another way we choose our color palette when working with it. And I'll also just explain a little bit about why. So when you look at this blob here, which is filled with the yellow, red, and orange, it instantly would remind us of the sun, the heat, the warmth. And that's exactly why it falls on the warm side of the color palette, because that's just the kind of emotions and feelings that it would evoke within us. In the same way, if I've used the blue, greens, and the violets, it's going to be a cool color combination because of the kind of feelings that it arises within us. So that's another important terminology that people most often use when they are talking or creating, where they say, okay, today I've decided to go with the warm colors, or today I've decided to go with the cool colors. Now, how I use it a lot in my work is in terms of the emotions that it evokes, because I'm more focused on mindful art and intuitive art. So to me, the kind of emotions and feelings the colors evoke become very important. So here I would just suggest that you maybe pause the video, grab a paper and pen, and do a small little exercise where you write the name of each color, say yellow, red, blue, orange, green, purple, and then you can also write tints, pink, maroon. You can go on depending on how, even black, white, brown, and gray, and take a moment to see how each color makes you feel, and just write down that. Maybe it could be a feeling, an emotion, or any association that you have existing in your mind with the colors. So that exercise is going to really help you intuitively pick colors when you start an art project the next time. So I'm just going to give you a little brief wherein the warm colors, which is the red, Red is always known for love, for passion, for energy, power, strength, excitement. All of these are denoted by red. And on the negative side, danger, pain is also represented by red sometimes. With orange, orange is a color of creativity, optimism, productivity, joy, enthusiasm, um, also friendship sometimes. When we come down to yellow, again it's a representation of joy with humor, warmth, optimism, happiness, hope, confidence, fun. And with yellow and orange both, if you go on to the negative end, it can also be used for fear, for irritation, agitation, any such emotion. And that's why most of those are represented by reds, yellows, and oranges. Coming to the cool colors, the green, of course, is a lot about nature, balance, harmony. Sometimes love is also represented by green. It's about good fortune, change, freedom, faith. And on the negative end, it could be used to represent jealousy, envy, emotions like that. Blue automatically is a color associated with peace, calmness, truth, respect, kindness, discipline. And when you're feeling sad, gloomy, and depressed, again, blue is a go to color on the negative end of emotions. With purple and indigos, it's to do with imagination, dreams, artistic abilities, magic, royalty, healing, spirituality, ambition, fantasy. All of these things are very widely represented with purples, indigos. And on the negative end, it represents conflict, anxiety, grief, and such emotions. So, why is that important? The warm and cool and the emotions of the colors? Because most often, intuitively, when we're going to be creating an art piece, we are going to go by picking a color palette that resembles the emotions or our mental state in that moment. So it's a good activity to be aware of how each color makes you feel, and the next time when you're about to create, to see naturally which colors you're drawn to, and then kind of introspect and reflect about how you were feeling and if they have any relationship with the colors that you were drawn to. So in today's video, this was my focus to just talk about the basic structure of the color wheel and take you through the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, and the emotional value of the colors, and how most often when we create, we're drawn to picking colors in terms of our emotional state and how we're vibing at that moment. In my next video, I will be diving deep into the color wheel, discussing the complementary colors, talking about the contrasts, focusing more on how the transparency and opaqueness of the color makes a big difference when working in projects, and a few more terms in the sense of tints, shades, and things like that. And it's always good to create your own color wheel. If not, you could also buy this. Like I said, it's easily available on Amazon. And if you wish to make your own color wheel and don't want to go about drawing and all of that, then I'd say that since Stencil Girl Products has some amazing stencils for color wheels, and according to me, they're quite a good stencil to have in your collection, because what you can then do is every time you buy a new medium, say a new set of sprays, a new set of pigments, pigment powders, a new set of paints, heavy body or fluid acrylics or whatever, you could customize and create your own color wheel with the color combinations and label it, so the next time that you want to use, you know that you have those particular products in your stash, and you also have a reference to how the colors look, and it's just easier for you to work from there. So that's about my color theory basics part 1, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've enjoyed this and it's been informative, do hit the thumbs up and like the video and leave your valuable comments. I always say I truly, truly appreciate them. And until the next time, take care and bye bye.